The story behind the September 11th attacks in New York, also known as 9/11, is complex, tragic, and transformative in many ways. To understand the full scope of this event, it is important to delve into the history, the motivations, the immediate impact, and the long-term consequences of that fateful day. Below is a detailed exploration of the September 11th attacks, unfolding the background, the events of the day, and the aftermath, all within the framework of the global context at the time. The historical background and rise of al-Qaeda. To truly understand the September 11th attacks, it is essential to first understand the rise of al-Qaeda, the terrorist organization responsible for the attacks. The group was founded by Osama bin Laden, a wealthy Saudi national, in the late 1980s. Bin Laden was deeply involved in the Mujahideen's fight against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan during the Soviet-Afghan War, 1979 to 1989. This experience led him to adopt a radical interpretation of Islam and an intense hatred for the United States and Western influence in the Middle East. In 1989, after the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan, bin Laden returned to Saudi Arabia. However, he soon became disillusioned with the Saudi government, which he viewed as corrupt and too aligned with Western interests. The final straw came in 1990 when the U.S. stationed troops in Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War, a decision bin Laden strongly opposed. As a result, bin Laden was expelled from Saudi Arabia and moved to Sudan before eventually settling in Afghanistan under the protection of the Taliban. During the 1990s, al-Qaeda grew as an international network that sought to use terrorism to fight what it considered the oppressive policies of the U.S. and its allies. Bin Laden's rhetoric and message attracted many individuals who shared his radical views. Al-Qaeda conducted numerous attacks throughout the 1990s, including the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania, which killed over 200 people, and the bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen in 2000. Despite these attacks, the U.S. had not yet fully understood the scope and threat posed by al-Qaeda, and bin Laden's network remained largely elusive. The attacks on September 11th, however, marked a turning point in how the U.S. would engage with terrorism on a global scale. The September 11th attacks, the Day of Terror. On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists associated with al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. These planes were part of a meticulously coordinated operation, each targeting symbols of American power and influence. American Airlines Flight 11. The first plane, American Airlines Flight 11, departed from Boston Logan International Airport, bound for Los Angeles. At 8:46 a.m., the plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact caused a massive explosion and fire that quickly spread throughout the building. People inside the tower were left in a desperate situation, with many attempting to escape, while others were trapped above the point of impact. United Airlines Flight 175. A second plane, United Airlines Flight 175, also departing from Boston, was hijacked and headed towards New York City. At 9:03 a.m., it crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center, causing an even larger explosion. The sight of both towers burning, with thick black smoke billowing out, was captured by television cameras and broadcast worldwide, immediately sending shockwaves through the global community. American Airlines Flight 77. At 9:37 a.m., a third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense, located in Arlington, Virginia. The impact of the crash caused a violent explosion, leading to significant destruction and loss of life. The Pentagon, a symbol of U.S. military power, was targeted as part of al-Qaeda's broader goal of attacking symbols of American might. United Airlines Flight 93. The fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was headed for Washington, D.C. Early reports suggest that passengers aboard Flight 93 fought back against the hijackers, attempting to regain control of the aircraft. At 10:03 a.m., the plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, before it could reach its intended target, believed to be either the White House or the U.S. Capitol. The immediate aftermath. In the wake of the attacks, the United States was plunged into a state of shock and disbelief. Thousands of people were killed in the attacks, including passengers on the planes, workers in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and emergency responders who rushed to help. In total, nearly 3,000 people from over 90 countries lost their lives. The collapse of the Twin Towers occurred shortly after the hijacking incidents. The South Tower, hit second by Flight 175, collapsed at 9:59 a.m., followed by the collapse of the North Tower at 10:28 a.m. The buildings, which had stood as icons of New York City's skyline, were reduced to rubble. The destruction of the towers and the damage to the Pentagon created an unprecedented sense of vulnerability in the U.S. Emergency responders and volunteers worked tirelessly in the chaotic aftermath, searching for survivors amid the debris. In the days that followed, Ground Zero became a symbol of both destruction and resilience. The collapse of the towers not only had a profound emotional and psychological impact on New Yorkers but also on people around the world. The global response. In the immediate aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. government, led by President George W. Bush, declared a war on terror. The primary focus was on dismantling alqaeda and punishing those responsible for the attacks. The U.S. quickly identified bin Laden and alqaeda as the perpetrators and sought to capture or kill them. One of the first major responses came on October 7, 2001, when the U.S. and its allies launched Operation Enduring Freedom, a military campaign aimed at removing the Taliban regime from power in Afghanistan. The Taliban had been harboring al-Qaeda operatives, including bin Laden, and the U.S. demanded that they turn over bin Laden, which the Taliban refused. The war on terror extended beyond Afghanistan and led to significant military and diplomatic actions. One of the most controversial aspects of the post-9/11 response was the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, which was based on the belief that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, and had ties to terrorism. While the invasion led to the toppling of Saddam Hussein, the justification for the war was later widely disputed, and no WMDs were found in Iraq. In addition to military action, the U.S. implemented various counter-terrorism measures, including the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the introduction of the USA Patriot Act. These measures significantly expanded government surveillance and intelligence gathering capabilities, raising debates about privacy and civil liberties. The psychological and cultural impact. The psychological impact of 9/11 was profound, especially in the U.S., where the sense of invulnerability and security was shattered. The attacks not only caused physical damage but also left deep emotional scars on those who witnessed the events or lost loved ones. Many survivors and first responders have faced long-term physical and mental health challenges, including respiratory issues from exposure to debris at Ground Zero and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Culturally, 9/11 changed the way Americans viewed themselves and their place in the world. It led to a surge in nationalism, but also to an increased sense of fear and suspicion. There was a rise in anti-Muslim sentiment, as many wrongly associated all Muslims with terrorism. This led to increased hate crimes, discrimination, and the rise of Islamophobia. In terms of media, 9/11 was a turning point. Television networks around the world broadcast the events live, making it the first event in history that was viewed by millions in real time. This not only changed the way people consumed news but also shaped the discourse around terrorism, security, and geopolitics. long-term consequences and legacy. The September 11th attacks had far-reaching consequences that continue to shape global politics, security, and culture. In the U.S., the attacks marked the beginning of a new era of security measures, intelligence gathering, and military interventions. The U.S. has remained involved in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades, until the withdrawal of American troops in 2021. Al-Qaeda, despite losing its stronghold in Afghanistan, adapted and became a decentralized organization, inspiring other radical groups such as ISIS. The threat of terrorism has remained a significant challenge for governments around the world, and counterterrorism efforts have become a key focus of international cooperation. The attacks also had a lasting effect on American foreign policy, prompting a shift towards unilateral action and preemptive strikes, particularly in the Middle East. The U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003 and its prolonged military presence in Afghanistan have had lasting geopolitical consequences, contributing to instability in the region. In addition to military and political changes, 9/11 has also left an enduring legacy in the form of memorials and public spaces. Ground Zero, the site of the World Trade Center, was transformed into a memorial and museum dedicated to the lives lost on that day. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum, which opened in 2011, stands as a tribute to the victims and a reminder of the enduring impact of the attacks. The September 11th attacks forever changed the course of history, not just for the United States but for the entire world. The events of that day are a powerful reminder of the vulnerability of societies and the far-reaching impact of global terrorism. The story of 9/11 is one of tragedy, resilience, and the ongoing fight for justice and peace in a world that continues to grapple with the consequences of that day.